Welcome to Proline TV here on this Tuesday, March the 4th. Kevin Rogers with you as we take a look at NHL first period trends, and we'll have some best bets coming up for the 10 games inside the NHL. And without further ado, we will get right to the matchups. The first game we're going to look at tonight will be the Flames and the Flyers as they hook up in Philadelphia. So we bring on the screen here, the big screen, with all of the first period stats I've kept track of all season long. And before we get to Calgary's page, we'll look at their overall numbers on the road. 8-13-8 in the first period. Sorry about that. 8-13-8 in the first period. Philadelphia 11-10-8. So really nothing convincing on either end. First with the Flames. They've been on a rough road trip so far, as they did beat Washington at the beginning, 3-1, pretty much start to finish in control, but were shut out in back-to-back games against the Lightning and the Panthers, and then lost in overtime to Carolina. But you see there, they haven't scored a first-period goal in the last three games. And again, playing four very tough opponents. And now you draw the Philadelphia Flyers tonight, who have played better. But first, we'll take a look at this. These teams met back on October 12th in Calgary, and the Flames pretty much controlled that one from start to finish, up 2-0 after one, and then eventually won the game 6-3. Now, the Flyers, you see what they've done since the Four Nations break. They've won 3 of 4, lost to Pittsburgh in overtime, so that's not too bad. Also, beating the likes of Edmonton and Winnipeg, that's pretty good too. But their 3 first-period wins, all against the Pittsburgh Penguins during this stretch, and a couple back-to-back unders in the first period. Samuel Ersson should be playing in net tonight for the Flyers. Our next game we will take a look at, the Predators and the Bruins from Boston this evening. And Nashville's been a complete disaster in the opening period of late as we go back to January 25th. And you see they've led one time after the first period. That came in a 2-1 win over Winnipeg last Thursday. And going to New York, they were shut out in the first period in back-to-back games against the Islanders and Rangers, got outscored 11-4 in those two losses. And also right here in this column, the shots on goal, 19-3 to the Islanders. They were outshot, 15-6 to the Rangers. So they will look to play a little better against Boston, who, when you look at it, they did shut out earlier this season at home 4-0 back on October 22nd, and the Predators led 1-0 after one. Now, looking at the Boston Bruins, they have been not very good of late. You see that is 6 losses in the past 7 games. They did beat Pittsburgh last Saturday, got shut out at Minnesota. Granted, they gave 1 goal, but still a couple tough overtime losses at home to Anaheim and Toronto. And again, up and down at home for the Bruins in the first period since the start of February. You see they led the Rangers 2-1. They were scoreless with Minnesota, led Vegas 2-1, led Toronto 2-0. So up and down numbers there for the Boston Bruins. And we'll see if they bounce back tonight. They have not allowed a first period goal in 3 of the past 4 games. The next game we'll take a look at, the Blue Jackets and the Lightning. We're going to start with Columbus because they have been one of the best first period teams in the NHL. Let's go to the overall page. Columbus 28-12-20 so far in the first period this season. And you see in the middle here, as far as over-under record in the first period, 21-8 at home, 12-18 on the road. So the first period numbers have been, you've had pretty much a goal in a lot of those games or less. And Tampa Bay, off their loss at Florida last night, 2-1. They've still been very good at home, 17-4-8, also 10-20, 10 overs, 20 unders so far at home in the first period. And Columbus coming off that win at Ohio Stadium at Ohio State on Saturday over the Red Wings, and back-to-back games that they went scoreless after the first period. But look at this. This is pretty amazing. Going back to January 4th, this team has trailed after the first period once, and that came against the Buffalo Sabres back on February 4th. Since the Four Nations break, they've allowed 1 goal in the first period, so that has been pretty good. Also, by the way, they've won 4 straight during this process. Now, the Lightning, off their loss to the Panthers last night, you wonder if Andrei Vasilevsky will play on the back end of this back-to-back, and also the under 4-1 in the first period in the 5 games since the break for Tampa Bay, and they've allowed just 1 goal in the first period coming to Edmonton. back on February 25th. So interesting matchup there. Last time they played, this was the crazy game in Columbus. No, I'm wrong. That was at home. They won 5-3 on December 17th. Before that, it was this game on November 21st. Tampa Bay led Columbus 3-1 after one. Lost that game in overtime 7-6. You see there, Andrei Vasilevsky did not play in that game. So the Blue Jackets took advantage there of Johansson. And in the next matchup, it was Vasilevsky who was in net and pretty much got things under control for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, the next game we'll look at, the Hurricanes and the Red Wings, their first matchup this season. And Carolina off that overtime win over Calgary on Sunday. Look at those numbers, though, in the first period for the Carolina Hurricanes. Except for scoring the 3 goals against Buffalo back on February 27th, the other 4 games since the break, they haven't scored a first period goal. So slow starts for the Carolina Hurricanes in this stretch, although they play a little better defensively because they allowed 6 goals at Toronto and Montreal, but just 2 goals in the past 3 games. But going back on the road, take a look at these numbers, though. Got outscored 2-0, 4-0, 1-0, 1-0. They did lead the Rangers 1-0 January 28th. So the last 4 road games, they've been outscored 8-0 in the first period. So something to maybe monitor. As far as the Red Wings go, off those 2 losses to Columbus, they have not scored a first period goal in the past 3 games. Also, Detroit was on that 8-1 overrun in the first period before going under the last 2 games. So we'll see if Detroit can get back on track here. Alex Lyon will probably start in net for the Red Wings. And you see with Lyon, over. So 4 straight. So 5-1 the last 6 starts for Alex Lyon in the Red Wings net as far as first period overs. The Sharks and the Sabres in Buffalo tonight. San Jose coming off a big win at Toronto last night. Got to give them credit. They were huge underdogs. They also caught Toronto off a road trip, and then Toronto was going out west. They're playing Vegas coming up, I believe, tomorrow night. So they did catch the Maple Leafs in a down spot. Also, Toronto's playing with no rest. Now, as far as San Jose goes, a rare win for them, and also in the first period, only led once in the past 5 games, but also when you go back towards the end of, January 27th, we'll go there. They've only trailed twice. So they are competitive in the first period. I mean, yes, that Dallas game, they trailed 3-2, but the 2 times they trailed by a goal. So not terrible for the Sharks. Now, as far as the Buffalo Sabres go, we'll go back to the overall numbers with them. 27, 16, and 16 on the season in the first period, but 17, 5, and 8 so far at home for the Sabres. Also 18 and 12 to the over, and they should be thrilled they're not playing Montreal anymore because they lost to the Canadiens again last night. That's 4 losses this year to Montreal. So Buffalo probably happy about that. But also, since that 5-0 output against the Rangers back on February 22nd, look how bad they've been in the first period. They've been outscored 7-1 in the past 4 games in the first. So in spite of Buffalo playing well in the first period, especially at home this year, I may want to stay away from them just because they have not been able to get off to good starts of late. The Jets and the Islanders at 7:30 from New York. Islanders playing with no rest after they lost to the Rangers last night. You see the Islanders on February 7th against Winnipeg led 2-1 after the first period, ended up losing that game 4-3. But the Islanders on a 3-1 overrun the last 4 games in the first period. And it's been up and down. They had a couple of bad performances against the Rangers, but looked good against Boston and Nashville. And now they draw a Winnipeg team who is off a 2-1 shootout loss to Philadelphia. And you see the Jets there the last 2 games. They've scored a total of 2 goals. And this Jets team up and down since the Four Nations break from the first period standpoint, 2-2-1. The over 3-2, so nothing really sticks out. But if you wonder if they'll go backwards tonight after the high-scoring first period against New York last time out, maybe you could look at that angle. The Devils and the Stars in Dallas tonight, and New Jersey continuing their road swing. The Devils, we'll start with them. 4 straight unders in the first period, 7-1 to the under the last 8. And the Devils off a 2-0 loss at Vegas. And you see in the last 4 games, just a combined 3 goals in the first period. So the Devils kind of grinding it out, but they did get Jacob Markstrom back in that Vegas loss. So we'll see if Markstrom is back in net again tonight. And New Jersey looking to avenge that 4-2 loss to Dallas in that first game after the break. Now, the Stars have come off a couple of high-scoring games in the first period, the last 2 games against the Kings and the Blues, combining for 6 goals there. They're 4-1 in the first period. Since the break, they're 4-1 overall, and they're 4-1 to the over. So Dallas has definitely looked pretty good, or probably one of the hotter teams since the break so far in the NHL. Couple games left to look at, all out west, obviously, and the Ducks and the Oilers from Edmonton. And we'll start on the Oilers side. Last time, or actually, they faced the Ducks twice this year. Lost to them 5-3 in Anaheim on December 19th. Beat them at home 3-2 on January 3rd. And numbers were all over the place as far as over the first time, under the second time in the first period. But Edmonton led each of those times after the first. And now the Oilers, tough spot as far as back from the long road trip. And they've allowed a first period goal in 4 of the past 5 games. They've also dropped 4 games. They did beat Carolina to wrap up the road trip and also finished under the total in the first period. As far as the Anaheim Ducks go, off of a loss to Chicago back on Saturday, that's their third in the past 4 games. They have not scored a first period goal in the past 2. But as far as their road numbers, 2-2, dating back to that LA game back on February, I should say 2-0-1, dating back to that LA game back on February 8th, and also 2-2 to the total in that span on the road. So nothing really sticks out here with the Ducks and the Oilers. The Penguins and Avalanche at 9 o'clock from Colorado. And we'll start with Pittsburgh, who has not been a good road team in the first period of late. They just lost that game to Toronto at home on Sunday, that back-and-forth game. They were down 2-0 early, led 3-2 after the first, ended up losing in overtime 6-5. But take a look at these road numbers, though, in the first period. Trailed 2-0 at Philadelphia, trailed 1-0 at Philadelphia, trailed 1-0 to the Rangers, trailed 1-0 to Utah, scoreless against Seattle and San Jose, trailed 2-0 at Anaheim, did lead LA 2-0, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight road games, the Penguins have not scored a first period goal. So that's interesting. Also, last time they played Colorado back on December 10th, they trailed 2-0 after 1, lost 6-2. That game back in Pittsburgh. Now, the Avalanche, seeing what they have done since the break, they lost their first 2 games to Nashville and St. Louis, won the last 2 convincingly over New Jersey and Minnesota, but also they did not allow a first period goal in the first 3 games. Then Minnesota came and scored 2 out of the gate, and the Wild did nothing after that. But still pretty good under numbers for Colorado of late. That is 7-3 to the under in the past 10 games in the first period. The Wild and the Kraken from Seattle, they wrap up the night. And first for Minnesota, off that 1-0 win over Boston on Sunday, now heading out to the Pacific Northwest tonight. Up and down numbers you see there in the first period, where they score 2, they score none, they score 2, they score none. And Minnesota looking to build off that 1-0 win over Boston, where their goaltending finally got in check after allowing 14 goals in the previous 3 games. As far as the Kraken goes, Seattle, since the since the 4 Nations break, no All-Star game this year, they've allowed 2 goals each of the past 2 games to St. Louis and Vancouver. They've scored a total of 2 first-period goals since then. Even dating back to the start of February, the Kraken scoring just 3 goals in the first period in 8 games. So that's no good, but also from a total standpoint in the first, 6-3 to the over in the past 9 games for the Kraken in the opening period. So that is the look at these teams and these trends to keep an eye on tonight. Now it is time for our best bets. And our first best bet, we're going to go with the Calgary Flames, simply because after playing 4 straight playoff teams, now you get Philadelphia, and the Flyers have played well since the break. You got to give them that off. A good one over the Jets. a couple nights ago, but still, I think that Calgary, who handled Philadelphia the first time, I think that they will play well here. You have a couple of former Flyers on the Flames now. Their return to Philadelphia, and I'm sure they'll want to play well. So we're going to go with Calgary in the first period against Philadelphia, try to get their offense on track. Now, as far as the top total of the night, Devils and the Stars, we're going to go under on that one, and a couple of reasons why. First, for New Jersey, they are looking to avenge that loss to Dallas back from a few weeks ago. How about this? The Devils are off of a back-to-back set. They are 7-1 to the under this year in the first period after playing back-to-back games. So usually that first period feeling out process in those games. Also with Dallas scoring 3 against LA, 3 against St. Louis, I don't think that they will do that again. So let's look for a lower scoring first period here between the Devils and the Stars as our second best bet. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here, Proline TV, and like our videos, subscribe to the channel. Also, you can check out a lot of other great content on Proline TV. And we have March Madness coming up, and also NASCAR weekly, plenty of videos with NASCAR. We're with you on Tuesdays and Thursdays to break down first period NHL trends, usually on the busiest nights, to give you the best chance at winning. So again, we appreciate you tuning in here. You can find me on Twitter, on X, at Rogers Picks, there on the bottom of the screen. And again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you checking this video out. I am Kevin Rogers. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, best of luck with your bets.